Hi everyone! Thanks for joining us. This is another episode of Let's Talk Donation with Gift of Hope. I am your host, Olivia Fox, and this is an interactive show where you can call in and ask us any questions that you might have about the organ and tissue donation community. We are also streaming live. If you're not in the city of Chicago, we're streaming live on cantv.org/hotline. And you can call in. Our number is listed right at the bottom of the screen. It's 312-738-1060. And you can call in and join the conversation, ask us any questions you have, share any testimonies that you might have if you're a recipient, if you're a donor family. We'd love to hear from our viewers and answer any questions that you might have about organ and tissue donation. Tonight, my guest is Lauren Ryan. She is the policy coordinator for Gift of Hope and one of my colleagues. So we'll have Lauren on right after our commercial break. Welcome, Lauren. So sorry for the slight technical difficulty, but if you're a fan of the show, you have seen our commercial before. So we are so happy to have Lauren Ryan here, who is Gift of Hope's policy coordinator and one of my colleagues that I just love working with. So welcome, Lauren. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Great. So let's jump right in. Tell me a little bit about what you do in your role as the policy coordinator for Gift of Hope.
Sure. So as the policy coordinator, I work with our chief policy officer as well as our communications department and community affairs department to advocate for donation across Illinois.
Okay.
So what that means is I work with elected officials, government agencies, and external partners to make sure that we are advancing our mission to save and enhance as many lives as possible through organ and tissue donation. Part of that role is reviewing current laws or regulations or proposed laws both in Illinois and throughout the country to see what might work in Illinois and what we might want to implement. If we come across a law that we feel might best serve the state by being changed, or a new law that would help us in our mission and we'd like to implement it, I then work with those elected officials and government agencies to have those conversations and work to make those changes.
Great. So that sounds like a lot that you do, but very important, very, very important. And the one thing that I know that has been your baby since I started was what we kind of talk loosely about as the 16 and 17-year-old legislation. And you can tell me the proper term for it, House bill, whatever the number is, and tell us a little bit about what that bill is, why it came to be, and maybe a little bit about the history of a law like this within the whole country. Can you tell us a little bit about those things?
Sure. So the Drive for Life bill, the Drive for Life Act, now since it's passed,
Awesome.
first came into being a few years ago when we realized that there was a lag in the registration rates of 18 to 20-year-olds.
Okay.
So within the state of Illinois, in order to register to be an organ donor, you need to be 18 years old. And we, when trying to figure out why that lag existed, we realized that in our state, 16-year-olds get their license, but then don't return to the DMV or the Secretary of State's office until they turn 21. And most individuals sign up to be organ donors when they get their license or state ID.
Right.
So when reviewing further and trying to dig a little deeper to see how we could rectify that gap, we realized that Illinois was one of about 3 states that did not allow 16 or 17-year-olds to register.
Means we're a little behind, huh?
We were a little behind. So after doing a little bit of research and working with the Secretary of State, we brought together a coalition of bipartisan legislators to write a bill that rectified that situation. So this bill, which we ended up calling the Drive for Life Act, allowed Illinois to sort of join the rest of the country, or most of the rest of the country, in allowing young adults, 16 and 17-year-olds, to join the registry.
And they're 16 and 17-year-olds, from my understanding, them joining the registry is actually a little bit different as
It
to
is.
if you registered once you turn 18. So can you talk a little bit about how it's different, the intent versus the first person registration for 16-year-olds as opposed to 18 and up?
Sure. So, in the state of Illinois, when you join the donor registry, the first person authorization registry, you are essentially giving a gift. By joining the registry, if you were to become a donor, or if you were to become eligible to be a donor, consent wouldn't be needed by your next of kin.
Okay.
Now, in writing this legislation, we wanted to make sure that parents and guardians felt comfortable and understood that they were still the ones that had final say in whether their child or their next of kin became a donor. So there's a clause in the legislation that states that should a 16 or 17-year-old who joined the registry become eligible to be a donor, parents and guardians still have final say on if that goes through.
See, so it's more of like an intent thing
It
as
is.
opposed to the
It
first
is.
person registry. Because in Illinois, when you're registered as a donor, as Lauren mentioned, that is your will, that is what will be done, regardless of what your family kind of feels, because it's your personal wish. So with the
Right.
16 and 17-year-olds, parents will still have the final say. I think that's really important to understand so that parents don't feel like they're just completely being stripped of
Exactly.
their responsibilities as a parent. I mean, because some people are more mature at 16 and 17, and some people are less mature at 16 and 17. So I think that that's good, so parents are still able to have that say, and I mean, you know your teen the best.
Sure. So and realistically, we wanted 16 and 17-year-olds are young adults. They're still teenagers, but most of them understand a lot of what's going on in the world.
Right.
And we wanted to make sure that they were able to express their wishes. But by having that clause in there, parents, as you said, still feel like they have a say, and we're not taking away parental rights. The other thing that's important to know is if a 16 or 17-year-old joins the registry, once they turn 18, they join what we consider to be the full registry.
Okay.
So
Wow, I
they
didn't know
go
that.
from automatically from being an intent to first person
person.
authorization.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yep.
It's really interesting, and so that bill will be, it's been signed, and it will be enacted starting January 1st, right?
That's right, and we're very proud of it. We received overwhelming bipartisan support. It passed unanimously in the state Senate and nearly unanimously in the House. I
Are
think
you allowed to mention who are the supporters of our bill?
I am. So Dan Brady was one of our sponsors, as was Katie Stewart, Maddie Hunter, and we had such a massive coalition. It would be almost impossible to mention them all.
Right, right.
Everyone.
Everyone was behind it,
Right,
so
it
that really
was-
says a lot about, I think, about our state and our representation.
Right. It truly was a bipartisan effort. And I think that goes to emphasize the fact that donation doesn't discriminate against partisanship or party, race, age, gender. Donation is an issue that covers a wide variety of demographics, and this was one other way that proved that fact. I think it's important to note that, as I said, this was a bill that received support from both sides of the aisle, and state legislators of all stripes.
Awesome. Well, great work on that,
Thank
Lauren.
you.
Good job. So my next question is, what's on the horizon for policy with Gift of Hope? So what are some kind of things that you have brewing? I know we're working on something together, so can you
Sure.
talk a little bit about what are the next steps once this actually becomes law in Illinois starting January 1st?
Sure. So as many of you know, and I know Olivia knows this, the first step of creating policy is passing legislation and making sure the policy is there. And then the second step is implementation. So that while passing this legislation was massively important, without some sort of implementation and sharing the word about what it is, it wouldn't have the same impact. So Olivia and I and a number of our colleagues are now working to develop and enact a curriculum for high school students throughout the state. And that's going to be a comprehensive program that informs teenagers, high school students, of the importance of donation, why someone might need a donation, what what impact an individual could have on the world, and then some statistics about donation in general. And we're looking to begin the program next year, and we have a few pilot programs going. It will likely start within the city of Chicago, which we're very excited about, throughout high schools there, and then spread further throughout the state as the implementation progresses.
Yeah, so that's exactly what we're doing. And in addition to the curriculum, Lauren mentioned the pilot programs that we have going on. And one that I'm working really closely with is a program with the Student Council at John D. Shoup Academy, which is on the south side of Chicago. And there we're really working with that Student Council that, of course, is all about leadership and teaching their peers what's important. They thought that it was important to raise awareness about organ and tissue donation. Even at that young age, their principal and their leaders kind of let them know that this is a topic that's important to share, and brought Gift of Hope in. And I've been going there for the past couple weeks, and I have to say I love working with those students. I've learned so much from them in these 4 weeks, and I really think that they've learned a lot from me. Each week when I come, I'm so excited to see them. They have so many questions that I can't even answer by myself all the time. I have to tell them, I'll get back to you next week about that. But it's so awesome because children really are so bright and so knowledgeable, and they have access to so much. So it's important that we're giving them good information early enough. You know, we always say that we don't want people to just be being introduced to Gift of Hope in the hospital. That's not where we want people to first hear about us. So the curriculum that we're working on, and working actually with other OPOs throughout the country to get that curriculum, since we were one of the last states, it already is going on in other states. They already have it, their curriculum on and popping. So we're working with them to make sure that we're sharing all the necessary information that they have found is important for students to learn about. So that's been a really fun project, and we're really excited to be working with CPS on that. That's an awesome group.
And one of the things we often see is that these teenagers, these young adults, are incredibly altruistic. And that's one of the reasons we feel that this legislation and this curriculum will be so successful. We hear from teenagers all the time about how they had wished they'd be able to join the registry and how they support donation, and this was this just built on the understanding of that altruism that we knew that this would progress within the state of Illinois.
Yes, and also not only for young people to be donors, but understand that there is the need at a recipient level at any age. It's not just old people. It could be a teenager that's in need. It could be a young person that's in need. So it's important that they understand both sides of it, not just being a donor and what it means to join the registry, but what leads to you needing an organ transplant, what leads to the illnesses that end up leading to organ failure. So knowing about those things is also definitely a part of the curriculum that students will be learning about, and we think that'll be really important for everyone to get. So it looks like we have a caller coming in, so go ahead and put the caller through. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, my name is John, and I was just wondering if I'm between the ages of 16 and 18, do I have the power to designate who my organs go to at that moment, or how would I handle that?
Okay, thank you so much for your question. And that the answer to that question is actually the same across the board, and it wouldn't really be different for 16 and 17-year-olds versus anybody that joins the donor registry. And you can't make a designation when you join the registry. You can't make a designation of who you want your organs to go to or tissue to go to. But what's important that you do is have a conversation with your family. And if there is some sort of parameters of who you want your organs to be donated to, your family can know that, and if and when that time comes, they can make those designations for you. But once you join the registry, there's no excluding any parts. If you join the registry, you're a part of the registry, and anything that's viable to be used for life-saving and life-enhancing purposes will be used. So thank you. That was actually a really, really good question, and that's one that's the same across the board, whether you become a donor at 5, 13, 16, or 70, so that's really important for everyone to know.
And I think John's question actually underscores something that we talk about all the time at Gift of Hope, and that's the conversation you have with your family is extremely important. So whether you be 16 or 80, having that conversation with your family, regardless of whether you're registered or not, is extremely important. We hear a lot from families about how the decision to donate a loved one's organs would have been much easier if they had known ahead of time. That's often a time of chaos and tragedy, and adding one more question or one more decision to that moment just adds to the difficulty. So ensuring that your loved ones know what you would have wanted, and so that they can prepare themselves for that and already have the answer, again, regardless of whether you're in the registry or not, is helpful not only for our purposes, but also specifically for your families who would end up having to make that decision.
And then also for you, because this is your will. The point of organ and tissue donation is that you can save lives through your death. So this is a decision for you. It's something that, you know, you should do if it's on your heart. And like Lauren said, just really make sure your family understands what it is that you want. And that kind of loops directly back to what I was saying about we don't want in the hospital to be the first time that you hear of Gift of Hope. We don't want that to be the first time you've seen our logo, heard about organ and tissue donation, and we definitely don't want it to be the first time you've thought about it. So that's why we do things like that. That's why Lauren and I work in the community and make sure that everyone is educated on the importance of it in all communities. So real quick, I will switch to our little info screen. If you can see that, you can reach us at giftofhope.org. That's our website. Or you can email me if you have any questions, or if you'd like to reach out to Lauren, if you have any questions about policy, you can email me directly at ofox@giftofhope.org. And then also, just want to go quickly to our website that we'd like to remind you all to visit. If you would like to join the donor registry, you can come to our website, giftofhope.org, join the registry. It's a big button right here. It'll take you less than 30 seconds. So this is also where you can come to register, to get involved with us, and all that good stuff. So thank you so much again, Lauren, for joining us. This has been so informative. I work with you on a regular basis, and I've even learned through this conversation so much more. So thank you so much, and we will see you all next week for another episode of Let's Talk Donation with Gift of Hope. And our request this week and every week is to register to be an organ donor today. Register on your driver's license if you have not already. And if you have, thank you so much, and you will definitely be a hero and save a life and leave a lasting legacy on this earth. So thank you, guys. That's it for the show tonight. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.